You're selling your house. And at some point, somebody's going to hand you a stack of forms and basically ask you to tell a complete stranger everything that's wrong with the place you've lived in for the last 12 years. That's usually where people freeze because nobody's really sure how much they're actually on the hook for. I'm Chris Leeper with eXp Realty, and today I want to walk you through what you have to disclose when you sell a house in California, and just as importantly, what you don't. Quick note first. I'm a realtor, not an attorney. This is how it generally works, but every house and every deal is different, so if you've got a real situation, talk to a California real estate attorney. Same goes for buyers. Okay, here's the one rule. Everything else hangs on. California asks what you know. It doesn't ask you to go find out. California disclosure obligations are built on actual knowledge. If you know something material about the property, you disclose it in writing. Material means a fact a reasonable buyer would consider important in deciding whether to buy or what to pay for the home. So if you know the roof leaked, you say the roof leaked, but there's no law making you hire an inspector before you list, and nobody's making you go hunt for problems in your own house. And here's the part that takes the pressure off most people. You are not expected to walk around with a notepad, writing down every scratch and every ding. That's just normal wear on a house somebody's actually lived in, not something you have to catalog. A buyer knows they're buying a used home. But there is a line, and it's not about how small something is. A scratch on a cabinet door is the whole story. You can see all of it. Nothing's happening behind it. A crack in the drywall is different. So is a stain on the ceiling or a door that suddenly starts sticking. Those are the visible edge of something you can't see. And your buyer's question isn't really about the crack. It's what caused it. So that's your test. Is this the whole thing, or could it be a sign of something else? You don't have to figure out which one it is. You just have to say you saw it. Now, let's talk about the forms themselves. A lot of what you sign, you're just reading and initialing. It's standard boilerplate, required disclosures for every transaction in the state of California. That can be disclosures like the market conditions advisory, water heater and smoke detector compliance, or a notice about wire fraud. You're basically acknowledging that you received and read the information. Then there are a couple where you're actually answering questions and providing specific details about your property. These are the most cumbersome and where you should pay the closest attention. You'll notice there are several pages of yes and no questions that cover a huge array of details. These questions are based on the premise, are you, the seller, aware of? That wording matters because if you genuinely don't know, the answer is no, and that no means you're not aware of it. It doesn't mean the problem doesn't exist. Anything you answer yes to requires a brief explanation or additional reports or disclosures. This is where most sellers get overwhelmed and concerned. Another thing to note here, and this one catches people off guard, any inspection report you already have goes to the buyer as well, even an old one. The termite inspection from 2 years ago when you noticed droppings in your garage, or the roof inspection when there was a leak during the rainstorm last winter, then ended up being a slip tile. Even if the problem was remedied, it still gets shared with the buyer. This is a big part of why we usually steer sellers away from paying for a pre-listing inspection. A professional home inspector's job is to list every defect in every nook and cranny. That report lists everything, and the second it's in your hands, you're required to disclose it. Every cracked faceplate, slow drain, and loose tile. The buyer is going to inspect the home anyway with their own inspector on their dime. And if you get your own inspection just to see, you now own that report. So if the inspector missed something or called something wrong, you're the one who handed the buyer bad information. When the buyer does their own due diligence, that's between them and their inspector. So remember, always go back to the rule. You disclose what you know and nothing says you have to go find more. All right, let's go over a few quick rules of thumb to help get you through that stack of paperwork. First off, don't guess at the cause of something. If you had water in the garage, say you had water in the garage. Don't write probably just condensation, because now you've made a diagnosis you're not qualified to make. Another thing, don't call things minor. You're not the one who decides what's serious to the buyer. A minor leak or a small crack is your opinion and not for you to decide its significance. Also, if you're required to provide an explanation, you must do so. Leaving it blank is not an answer and could be interpreted as holding something back. As far as how much paperwork you're actually looking at depends on the house and the transaction specifically. If your property has things like solar or is on septic, there are additional disclosures that need to be included for the sale. Or if the buyer in your transaction is a FHA or VA buyer, there is additional paperwork as well. Another example would be if the home is located in a high fire zone or part of an HOA. These are specific to the property or the sale and are not required on every transaction, but must be included if it pertains to your deal. I broke all of this down in a lot more detail on the blog. The link's below if you want to go check it out. So just to recap, you're required to disclose what you actually know about your house, the leak you had, the repair you made, the permit you never pulled, the crack you've been watching. If you know it and it would matter to somebody buying your house, it goes on the form. What you're not required to do is go inspect your own house, chase down problems you've never noticed, or write down every scratch and scuff from 12 years of living there. If you're thinking it might be time to sell, I can help you review your home's current condition and what items you should address before you list. We are in a different market than we were a few years ago. Buyer demand and expectations are real. Buyers want more turnkey homes and are looking more closely at upgrades and condition and are not hesitating to walk away from deals when surprises show up. I'm Chris Leeper, your neighborhood realtor and local area expert. Give me a call so we can get you moving today. Thanks, guys. We'll catch you later.